Ahoy there, future deck officers. Welcome aboard to our deep dive, where we are going to help you absolutely crush that deck officer interview. We've got a whole bunch of common questions they like to ask, plus some insider tips from RoleCatcher's career resources.
Yeah.
And we're going to map out how to show off all your skills and just how much you love life at sea.
You got it. It's not just about, knowing all the right answers, but showing you can really handle the rewards and challenges of a maritime career. It's pretty unique.
Totally. So let's jump right into those tricky interview questions, right?
Yep.
First one, what inspired you to pursue a career as a deck officer? How would you answer that?
This is like your first impression.
Yeah.
This is your chance to set the tone and show them this isn't just a job for you. It's like a calling.
It's your own personal story.
Yeah.
Maybe it was like ships when you were a kid, or family connection to the sea, or if you just wanted adventure.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to, connect your story to what the job actually is. The guide mentions things like travel and that unique work environment that you get.
Yeah.
But also the downsides, like time away from home. Being honest about the challenges shows you're not, just dreaming about the career.
Exactly. So once you've got them hooked with your amazing story,
Right.
then they want to know, what you know how to do, right?
Right. So how would you approach something like, describe your experience with navigation equipment and software?
This is where being specific is super important.
Okay.
Instead of listing a bunch of tools, paint a picture,
Uh-huh.
like how you actually used them. For example, instead of saying, oh, I'm good with ECDAS.
Yeah.
You could say, during my time on that bulk carrier, I used ECDAs to plan routes, keep an eye on the weather,
Okay.
and use data from all the different sensors on board to make sure we were navigating safely.
So it's about showing that you've done it.
Yeah.
And you know how to use it.
Exactly.
And not just that it's on your resume.
Right.
And with all the changes in maritime, with tech.
Oh, absolutely. I bet they're going to want to know if you can adapt to that, too.
For sure. The technology advances section in the guide really highlights how much the industry is, bringing in new systems and software all the time.
Right.
So if you mention that you're willing to learn and stay ahead of the game, that's a huge plus.
So now, switching gears,
Yeah.
let's talk about something super important at sea,
Yeah.
which is safety. How would you answer, how do you ensure compliance with safety regulations and procedures on board a vessel?
When it comes to safety, interviewers are looking for people who are, proactive and go above and beyond the rules. They want to see that you're truly dedicated to having a safe place to work, not just checking boxes.
Okay, so how do you actually show that?
A good way is to give specific times when you went above and beyond. Like maybe you noticed a safety hazard and fixed it, or you started a new procedure that made things safer.
So it's like showing that safety is just part of how you think, not something you
do.
Cause you have to.
Right.
No to high pressure stuff, right?
Right.
Like how would you answer, how do you handle emergency situations on board a vessel?
This is where you get to show off how you can think clearly, even when things are crazy.
Okay.
The guide talks about all these wild conditions, storms, equipment breaking down, even pirates. Interviewers want to know.
Oh, wow.
You can assess the situation, make decisions, and lead the crew through a crisis.
So it's staying cool under pressure.
Yeah, exactly.
But how do you actually show that in an interview?
Try using the STAR method. Situation, task, action, result.
Okay.
Describe an emergency you faced, what your role was, what you did, and how it turned out well.
So it's not just saying I'm good in emergencies.
Right.
It's like you're giving them a real story.
Yeah, a concrete example.
I like it.
And it doesn't have to be, some super dramatic life or death thing.
Okay.
Even something small, like a little engine problem or a medical thing on board, can show them that you can stay calm and take charge.
Now let's talk about communication.
Okay.
What would you answer this one? How do you ensure effective communication among the crew and with other vessels?
This is where that typical interactions section in the guide comes in handy.
Yeah.
Remember, life on a ship is, a mix of different cultures and ranks. You're dealing with people from all over, speaking different languages and needing to be clear and concise, especially when things are stressful.
So it's not just about talking clearly.
Right.
It's about, knowing how to talk on a ship.
Exactly. You'll want to mention your experience with standard maritime protocols,
Okay.
being able to talk to people who speak different languages, and knowing the chain of command.
So what about those language barriers? What if someone doesn't speak much English?
Oh, that's a good one. Think about times you've used things like visuals, explaining important words,
Yeah.
and really listening to make sure everyone understands.
Okay.
Those are practical solutions.
Cool. Now, for a tougher one, how would you answer? How do you manage conflicts among the crew?
This is where your people skills come in.
Okay.
The guide talks about the strict hierarchy on a ship
Right.
and how that can lead to tension in a small space.
Yeah.
They want to see that you can calm things down, find solutions, and keep things professional and respectful.
So you're not just the boss, you're the leader.
Exactly.
What would you suggest someone say for this question?
Focus on listening, understanding everyone's side, and finding common ground.
Okay.
You could say something like, I believe in being direct but respectful. I'd listen to everyone's point of view and then try to find a solution that works for everyone.
That's a good approach.
Yeah.
It's about solutions, not blaming.
Exactly.
Now, environmental stuff's getting more important.
Oh, for sure.
How would you answer, how do you ensure compliance with environmental regulations on board a vessel?
This is where you get to show your dedication to sustainability.
Okay.
Go beyond the basic rules. Talk about how much you care about the ocean, your experience with waste management and preventing pollution,
Okay.
and your willingness to do more to minimize the impact your ship has on the environment.
So it's like showing that you're actually invested
Yeah.
in protecting the ocean, not just following the rules.
Right.
What if, like, you see someone cutting corners, like dumping something overboard?
That's a tough one, but it shows how you handle things that need both tact and assertiveness.
Yeah.
You could say you'd first try to educate the person about the importance of the rules and the consequences of breaking them.
Okay, and what if that doesn't work?
Then you might need to go up the chain of command. Safety and the environment are top priorities, and you have a responsibility to make sure everyone follows the rules.
Now, let's talk about keeping your skills sharp.
Yeah.
How do you stay up to date with the latest developments in the maritime industry?
This is your chance to show how much you care about professional growth.
Okay.
Talk about reading industry magazines, going to conferences and workshops, being part of organizations like IMO or ITF,
Yeah.
and even your interest in learning about new tech and trends.
So it's about showing you're not just happy with what you know, you're always learning.
Exactly. Always learning and improving.
And speaking of staying ahead, there's a tool that can really help you prep for your interview. RoleCatcher.
Oh, RoleCatcher's AI is amazing for tailoring your answers to specific deck officer jobs.
Yeah. Like, say you're going for a tanker position. RoleCatcher can help you highlight your experience with cargo and safety rules for dangerous stuff.
Right. And if you're looking at passenger vessels, you can focus on your skills managing big crews
Yeah.
and keeping passengers safe and comfortable.
So it's all about showing the right skills
Yeah.
for the job you want.
Exactly.
But how does RoleCatcher actually do that?
You type in your answers to these interview questions we're talking about,
Okay.
and the AI looks at them, not just for how good they are in general, but also how well they match the skills and keywords in the job description.
So it's like having a pro deck officer giving you feedback.
Precisely. It helps you improve your answers so you're hitting all the right points and
Yeah.
showing off your skills in a way that employers like.
I actually use RoleCatcher to prep for a really tough interview once.
Uh-huh.
The feedback from the AI was amazing.
Oh, nice.
It helped me make my answers stronger and sound more confident. We'll talk more about what RoleCatcher can do later.
That's good.
But for now, back to the questions.
Okay.
Another one they like to ask is, how do you manage your time effectively on board a vessel?
Oh, yeah. The guide talks about long shifts,
Right.
crazy schedules, and having to handle all kinds of things at once.
So how do you stay organized with all that pressure?
It's all about prioritizing, delegating, and being able to switch gears quickly. Highlight your systems for managing tasks, deadlines, and delegating effectively.
So it's about working smart,
Yeah.
not just hard.
Exactly. You can use real examples, like maybe you implemented a new scheduling system that made things more efficient, or you created a process for delegating that kept things running smoothly, even when things were chaotic.
Okay, that's a lot to think about. Before we move on to the next batch of questions, let's take a quick break.
Sounds good.
We'll be back soon to keep helping you chart your course to interview success.
Looking forward to it. Okay, let's keep going with these deck officer interview questions.
Yeah, we've got a lot more to talk about. Now, I know people get kind of tripped up by questions that seem basic.
Yeah.
Like, what is a deck officer and what do they do?
Right.
But this is actually a good chance to show you really understand the job.
Exactly. Don't just give them, like, a definition from a textbook. Think of it like describing a typical day at work. The guide talks about key things like watch duty, navigation, safety, cargo, and crew supervision. You can use those to tell a story that shows how much experience you have.
So it's about showing you've actually done it, not just read about it.
Yeah. Exactly. You might say something like, as a deck officer, I am responsible for making sure the ship runs safely and efficiently, from navigating tough waters to overseeing cargo loading and unloading, all while keeping everyone safe and leading a skilled team.
That sounds pretty impressive.
Right.
And then you can back it up with real examples from your own experience.
Absolutely. Maybe you introduced a new safety rule that reduced accidents or came up with a clever way to load cargo in a tricky situation.
Okay, so you've covered the what. What about a question like, what skills do you need to be a deck officer?
Oh, this is where you get to show off all your skills, both technical and, those people skills.
Right.
The guide mentions things like navigation, charts, electronics, regulations, but don't forget the soft skills too, like communication, leadership, making decisions under pressure, and being a team player.
It's like you need both the brains and the personality to be a great deck officer.
Right. You got it. Think of specific times you've shown those skills, like maybe you navigated through thick fog or helped resolve a conflict between crew members.
Right, showing you can handle the tough stuff.
Yeah.
Now, what about qualifications? What if they ask, what qualifications or education do you need to be a deck officer?
Here's where you need to be clear and organized. The guide lays out the basics pretty clearly.
Right.
A degree in nautical science or marine engineering, mandatory training courses like basic safety training and advanced firefighting, and of course the STCW certification.
Right, the STCW. That's like the gold standard for seafarers all over the world, right?
Exactly. Standards of training, certification, and watchkeeping for seafarers. It covers everything from safety to navigation to environmental protection.
So make sure you list your qualifications clearly.
Yes.
And highlight any that are super relevant to the job you want.
Definitely.
And if you have any extra certifications or training, brag about those too.
For sure. Show them you're going above and beyond.
It's all about exceeding expectations. Right.
Mm.
Now, what about moving up in your career? What if they ask, can you describe the career progression for a deck officer?
This is where you show them your ambition.
Okay.
The guide outlines a typical path, starting as a cadet or junior officer and working your way up to third, second, and chief officer with the ultimate goal of becoming captain.
So there's a clear path to follow with steps along the way. How would you suggest someone talk about their career goals within that structure?
Be realistic and stick to the usual career path.
Good.
You could say, I'm excited to learn all aspects of deck operations with the goal of becoming a chief officer and eventually a captain. I'm especially interested in mention something specific like tanker operations or passenger vessels, and I'm committed to learning and improving my skills to reach those goals.
That sounds ambitious but achievable.
Right.
Now, let's get real about the job itself.
Okay.
How would you answer, what are the typical working conditions for a deck officer?
Honesty is important here. The guide sections on conditions and work hours are pretty realistic. Long hours, irregular schedules, tough weather, and, the risks of working at sea.
Right.
But it's also good to show your enthusiasm for the job's challenges and rewards.
So it's about finding that balance.
Exactly. You could say, life at sea is demanding, but it's also really rewarding. I like the challenges, the teamwork, and the chance to travel and experience different cultures.
Maybe you could even share a quick story about a tough situation you overcame at sea.
That's a good idea. It shows you can handle things when they get tough.
Okay, let's zoom out a bit.
Okay.
What are the career prospects for a deck officer?
This is where your research comes in. The guide says the outlook is generally good, with demand for skilled deck officers expected to stay strong. But it's important to look into the area you're interested in. Are there any new trends? What types of ships are in high demand?
So show them you've thought about your career strategically.
Exactly. You could say, I know that the demand for deck officers with experience in mention something specific, like LNG carriers or offshore wind farm support vessels, is high, and I'm excited to contribute to this growing industry.
Now, for a question that can really make you stand out.
Okay.
What are the challenges faced by deck officers?
Here's where you go beyond the obvious.
Right, like being away from home for a long time.
Yeah.
And the possibility of danger.
Yeah. But what about the mental and emotional side of the job? The guide talks about the stress of making big decisions, managing diverse crews, and keeping morale up in tight spaces.
So it's about showing you get the complexities of the job and have ways to deal with them.
Exactly. You could talk about how you manage stress, resolve conflicts, or build a strong team spirit.
Maybe you have a way to stay connected with loved ones while you're away,
Huh.
or ways to stay positive during long trips. Those little details can make a big difference.
For sure.
Okay, now the question everyone wants to know.
Let's hear it.
What's the typical salary for a deck officer?
Ah, yes, the money question.
The guide doesn't give specific numbers.
Right,
And for good reason.
right.
Salaries depend on experience, rank, type of ship, and company.
Right.
But you can still prepare for this question.
Absolutely. Do your research. Look at salary surveys for deck officers in your area or for specific types of ships. You can also use tools like RoleCatcher to get an idea of salary expectations for different jobs in the industry.
That's a great point. RoleCatcher's AI can actually look at salary data and give you realistic ranges for the job you want.
Yeah, and it can help you talk about your salary expectations professionally.
Right. You don't want to sell yourself short,
No.
but you also don't want to seem unrealistic.
Exactly. It's a balancing act, and RoleCatcher can help you get it right.
Okay, we've covered a lot.
Yeah.
Before we go to the last set of questions, let's quickly recap how awesome RoleCatcher is.
Yeah, it's a game changer for anyone getting ready for a deck officer interview. Its AI can help you tailor your answers, showcase your best skills, and get personalized feedback.
It's like having a virtual career coach right there with you.
And remember, it's not just about getting the job.
Yeah.
It's about setting yourself up for success in your maritime career.
We'll be right back to finish up with those last few interview questions and help you map out your path to an amazing career at sea. Okay, we're back and ready to wrap up our deck officer interview prep.
Yeah, we've covered a lot, from showing your passion to those technical skills.
But before you head into that interview, there are a few more things to think about.
Right, and they might ask, what are some other titles for a deck officer?
This is where you show them, the lingo.
Yeah.
The guide mentions mate is pretty common, but there are others depending on the ship or the company.
Definitely. Do some research before the interview.
Yeah.
Look up common titles for deck officers in the specific area you're interested in.
So on a tanker, they might call you a tanker mate.
Wait!
And on a passenger ship, maybe a staff officer.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to ask if you're not sure about a title during the interview. It shows you're interested and want to learn.
Now, what about knowing your resources?
Okay.
That can really impress them.
Absolutely. When they ask, what are some good external resources for deck officers?
Yeah.
Don't just mention the basic manuals.
Right.
The guide lists some great organizations like IMO and ITF.
Right. The International Maritime Organization and the International Transport Workers Federation.
Yeah, those ones. Mentioning them shows you know what's happening in the industry and you want to stay up to date on standards and best practices.
You can also talk about industry magazines.
Yeah.
Online forums, even podcasts you listen to.
Exactly. It's all about showing you're committed to learning and growing in your career.
Okay, now get ready for some rapid-fire questions.
Okay, bring them on.
These usually come at the end of the interview, so have some quick and confident answers ready.
All right, good advice.
Here's one. What's the difference between a deck officer and a ship captain?
Okay, the guide talks about career progression, but highlight the captain's ultimate authority and responsibility. You could say something like, a deck officer helps the captain with various tasks while the captain is in charge and makes all the final decisions about the ship's operation and safety.
Clear and concise. Here's another one. What are some of the challenges of working on a cargo ship versus a passenger ship?
This one's about knowing the differences between types of ships and how they operate.
Yeah.
Cargo ships usually mean longer trips and focusing on cargo.
Okay.
Passenger ships need strong people skills and a focus on passenger safety and comfort.
Right. So tailor your answer to the specific ship in the job description.
Yeah, it shows you've done your homework.
Okay. Last question. It might sound a bit philosophical, but it can make a big impact. Why do you want to work at sea?
This is your chance to shine. Let that passion for the ocean loose.
Let it out. Talk about travel, adventure, the unique challenges and rewards of life at sea.
Right.
Tie it back to your personal story. What drew you to this career? Be yourself, be enthusiastic, and let them see how much you love this work.
Great advice. And remember, the interview is a two-way street. You get to learn about the company and the job, too.
Yeah.
Ask good questions about the company culture, career opportunities, and the specific challenges and rewards of the position.
It shows you're interested in thinking ahead.
Exactly.
So there you have it. We've gone through a whole bunch of deck officer interview questions.
Yeah.
Using RoleCatcher's resources and our own expertise to give you the knowledge and confidence to rock that interview.
You got this.
Remember, preparation is key. Practice those answers, research the company, and use the power of RoleCatcher's AI to refine your responses and make them perfect for the job you want.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
We believe in you. Now go out there and chart your course to a successful and fulfilling maritime career.
Best of luck.